Welcome to the Beaufort County Transportation Committee held on Thursday, March the 17th instead of the 16th. Will we have roll call, please?
Mr. Stroman?
Here.
Mr. McCain?
Here.
Mr. Glover?
Here.
Ms. Kozak?
Is she on the screen?
Mr. Backer?
You didn't answer me. Is she on the screen?
I thought you said I see her on the screen.
Do you? I don't have access to a screen.
No, not
Somebody's
She's
sitting
not
on.
here yet.
There's Jim Backer. Raise your hand, Jim.
Okay.
Jim's here.
Mr. Forrest? Mr. Manning?
Here.
Mr. Gordon?
Here.
Mr. Winslow?
Here.
Ms. Graves Sellers?
She's excused. She said she was going to call in. I don't, do you see her name on the list?
Not yet.
We have a quorum. We also go around the room on introductions. We know who you are, but go ahead and please introduce yourselves.
Greg Moore, I'm the resident construction engineer for SCDOT in Beaufort.
Suzanne Larson, Low Country Inside Track.
Thank you. Okay, would everybody please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I see no, would you let them in at, whoever's running late, please? Well, you can introduce yourselves.
I'm Elizabeth Sanders, the RMA for Beaufort County DOT. This is Michael Healy, Resident Maintenance Foreman, Beaufort DOT.
Okay. Thanks for being here. I don't see any strange faces in here. I don't think anybody has public comment to our agenda items. Okay. Seeing none. Let's move on to the approval of minutes of January the 19th, 2021. They were distributed to you all. Do I have any questions or comments about it? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve?
I make the motion to approve the minute.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Further discussion? Mr. Manning, you weren't here, so you will not vote for it. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Old business. First item is SCDOT's update, and I'm going to keep you pretty much all in this position, Greg. Let you come up and be first.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A lot of it is the same project updates. There's a couple ads that I'll just highlight before I get to the individual slides. 0761610 is the US 278 business for the resurfacing there. And 5660410 is multi-road reconstruction rehabilitation, which the of interest one here will be the last half mile of Salem Parkway out to the Fripp Island Bridge. Next slide. This project is the US 278 intersection safety improvements over in D8 on 278. We are having regular construction agents here right now. They're currently installing permanent construction signs, going into installing their BMPs for erosion control, along with moving into grading after that. The photo provided is that one of the intersections that's being improved upon.
I live in Belfair. There's sure got the signs up there, so.
Yes, sir. I was actually down there at Hilton Head National Drive this afternoon, so I know they were there. So, any questions on that piece of 278?
That's primarily raised medians and stuff like that?
There's a number of different improvements. It can be anything from raised medians to restriping to some new signal heads going in. The only piece of that's changing from what was advertised there is Hilton Head National Drive is obviously no longer a road. A lot of y'all heard that discussion at the retreat. And so right now I'm working with district and headquarters right now to see how we're going to also mitigate the turn lanes that are on 278 going to Hilton Head National.
I don't know whether you have any work plan for the intersection of 278 where Target is on the west side and you're going into Home Depot, or Home Depot on the left.
Sorry.
That's an awful backup. It's a very bad intersection. Is that in this plan?
Yes, sir, I believe so. They were, I believe my inspector was out there last week. So there is some improvement there.
I believe they're extending that, the turn lane and some drainage changes.
So you're extending it?
Yes, and drainage is changing.
Okay. Thank you. That's a good move.
All right, next slide. 0761610, this just got let in the last week. And right now they have not awarded yet. The completion date for this is November 2022. But this is the resurfacing for US 278 business.
That's on Hilton Head, correct?
Yes, sir.
Two sections, one down by Shelter Cove and the other up closer to Main Street.
I believe so. It's about 5 miles.
Elizabeth is shaking her head yes, so we're good. Okay?
All right, next slide. This one is a long-standing project at this point. The only thing remaining here over by the Walmart intersection on 170 by Paris Island Gateway is there's 2 additional detectable warning surfaces being installed inside of that raised concrete median. Once we finish that with the contractor, we'll be closing that job out. But otherwise, it's been inspected by Headquarters Traffic Safety Group. And overall, they like the turnout of the crosswalk, so. Any questions? Next slide. Everything here is complete. The most recent work has been down on 46 from the Beaufort Jasper line back to the 46 roundabout. Just doing some reshaping on the shoulders and the slope off the edge of pavement. But this is going into closeout.
Okay.
Next slide. This is the one that people will probably hear the most about from their citizens, is out on Salem Parkway in Hunting Island. This one has a completion date for the end of July of 2022. And it's got 2 pieces to it currently. One is on Salem Parkway. They've done all the milling, the full depth patching, the leveling, the shoulder widening. The only thing left in this initial contract is the final surface being pulled, and that will be performed once we go out on the contract that's at the end of the list I mentioned. We're going to do the same process on that last half mile out to the bridge, and then come back and pull the final surface for the entire course. The other piece of this contract that got change ordered in by the South Carolina Parks Authority is inside Hunting Island State Park. They're currently finishing inside the campground and also working on the rest of the roads throughout the park.
They really took a beating with the hurricane 3 or 4 years ago. They were in bad shape.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you'll see a very drastic improvement inside the park. So, any questions for Hunting Island?
Oop.
I know it's no longer a roller coaster out to Fripp, so. All right, next slide. These are relatively short. 565-6990 is multiple road rehab. The ones currently taking place is work being done at Castle Hall, Frampton, Boundaries in progress. Drayton Drive is, I believe in the next month and a half, they're going to be on Drayton Drive doing CMRB over in Port Royal. 565-8090 is just in closeout right now. I just have it on there just because we're not completely done with it, so. But once I finish closeout, that'll come off. 566010, this is Reconstruction and Rehabilitation across Beaufort and Jasper counties. The one to note here is Salem Parkway. This includes the last half mile leading to the Fripp Bridge. It was awarded to Blythe, the same contractor that's on Hunting Island currently. Same road application as the rest of the parkway. And again, coordinating to pull the final surface at once.
Now, Elizabeth, is that the money we gave you for Sea Island Parkway?
You gave us money for Allen's Causeway.
That's right. Got the two confused.
Yeah, total mileage for Beaufort County on this one is just over 5 miles.
That's a good hit.
Sir. Next slide, please. Other projects to note here is the US 278 toll road conversion. The contractor has gotten the notice to proceed on this one. It is being coordinated by the Special Projects RCE out of Charleston, same one that did Harbor River Bridge. I spoke with her yesterday about it. They've got their NTP to go. They're laying out survey now. They're getting ready to start demolition probably in the next week. And then once they start, they have 90 days roughly to finish demolition of any obstructions to free flow traffic across that section of what was a toll road.
What, are they taking down the toll booths?
Yes, sir. Anything that would impede free flow is coming down, any structures.
They also had the resurfacing of the cross island, don't they?
Yes, sir. There is some remarking, restriping.
We paid, the citizens paid using the tolls. They put the money in the pot to make certain we had enough to resurface that.
Yes, sir. Yeah, they're still doing some design there, so. But right now, the piece of work that's being executed is going to be the demolition, and as they work through the demolition, they'll finish the design on that piece.
Okay.
That one's being done as design build, so.
Well, it is.
Yes, sir. Yeah, typically when you see Sarah Gaffney from Special Projects managing the jobs, that indicates that it's going to be design build, which is what Harbor River Bridge was, which is what the toll road is. Yes, sir.
That's good.
If there's no questions on toll road, all I can say on the 278 corridor improvement project is the last public meeting was held 3 March 2022. From what I saw, it was a more optimistic turnout than the last one. So
That's kind of the take I've heard back the other direction as well. That things are quite favorable since they got the extra lanes that they wanted. And so it's no longer, again, just as a general point for everybody, it's been great having Greg on board and to give us updates because the projects are across all our districts. And that way you have an idea of what's going on. You're up to date with what's going on. Anybody asks you, you can speak with some clarity and intelligence on it. Any questions of Greg? Thanks much.
yes, sir. Thank you. If y'all have any questions, please feel free to call me. I've had a couple of y'all call me and I'm trying to get answers back to you. So if I don't know, I'll go ask and call you back.
Thank you much.
Yes, sir.
You're going to do the presentation.
I'm going to go ahead and do the presentation. I'm going to ask for a privilege to go ahead and take on items.
She called me before
Yes, sir.
I came over.
All right, if I could take on items B, dirt road paving contract 52 and 53 update, D, the SC 170 update, E, the status of resurfacing, and the treasurer's report all at once. I have another engagement. So starting with our dirt roads contract, just a reminder, it's Harrison Island, David Green, Whitcliffe, and Wright Place. All the permits have been submitted. At this point, we've only gotten the approval for Whitcliffe, and that's going to start construction in 2 weeks. For contract 53, Twickenham, Northview, and Rainbow Roads, the recommendation of award is going to be presented to our Public Facilities Committee on March 21st, and then it'll go to our County Council for final approval on March 28th. Once, for those who aren't familiar, our dirt road paving contract is being expended using our road use fee, also known as our tag fees. I'm going to go ahead and skip to SC 170 update. We are working throughout the design of the 6 projects along the corridor from 462 to the 28, US 28, or SC, US 28.
278.
278, that ran into 278, okay. So we've submitted all of those to SCDOT and are just pending comments at this point. Very
That's
quick
what I thought. The goal is to have that out to bid, I think in June, July timespan.
Yeah, we're looking for the summer to begin.
And to have it done, because that corridors, takes a beating. It gets like 45,000.
It does. And this is just a $3 million short-term, near-term improvement. The overall corridor, I believe, is upwards of 80 million.
Yeah, there's $1.5 million coming from Beaufort County, $1 million coming from Jasper County, and supposedly $500,000 coming from Hardyville.
And we're working on the execution of that IGA.
So all of that is pretty much in play at this point in time with AECom doing the design. And they did the original study as well.
Yes, that's correct.
And I will basically say, I can handle the treasurer's report tonight.
Okay.
And I'll let you go to your meeting, and I say that only for one reason is I have other things I need to tie in with
Not a problem
the
at all.
treasurer's report.
If there's any questions, anyone can email me on the treasurer's report. Moving on to item E, the status of our resurfacing contracts. So for year 5, this has been awarded to APAC. They were the only bidder on this project. We are working through the contract execution now. And then we will have our pre-bid meeting and our notice to proceed out within the next month.
It's been through the Public Facilities Committee and
County Council.
And the County Council, so it's basically now ready for execution.
Any
Questions?
Excuse me. People on Twickenham Road,
Yes, sir.
they are very pleased to hear the good news.
Good.
And we hope you continue.
We will continue.
Okay,
We
thank
will.
you very
And
much.
then, we are currently, just for everybody's edification and the Dirt Road program, we are reaching out to vendors to propose on the new Dirt Road evaluation. As you know, JMT did their evaluation, which gave us our 5-year fiscally constrained list. So we're looking at putting that back out for the year 2022 to come up with the next 5-year list for those dirt roads.
To give you a little bit of a picture on that, one of the things that Jared and I have had discussions on has been the fact that of the, I think, 67 miles that's left.
70 after we finish the 5 years here.
70 miles that's left. The thing that we're finding is the majority of the roads that are left are, number one, legacy roads, and number two, roads that we don't have right of way on. And so it keeps getting brought up at county council questioning, well, when are you gonna pave my dirt road? Well, there's gonna be dirt roads that are never gonna be paved. That's the reality of it, number one. And number two, the other side light to it really is, does it make fiscal sense to be paving routes with only maybe 1 or 2 houses on it, number one? And second of all, paving dirt roads where we have to take the right-of-way by eminent domain. And that doesn't necessarily sit well with many people. It actually infuriates most people if you start taking their land to build a road on it. So.
And the goal of Beaufort County, regardless of the dirt road, is to keep it maintained so that it's safe, especially for EMS and fire and police to access residents. But something that's in this 5-year plan for the dirt road paving is we are looking at alternatives for rocking certain roads.
Right.
So on Defusky Island, we've grouped all the Defusky Island roads onto one contract for rocking.
There's some dirt roads that, I understand where you're coming from in terms of, but there are, you look at it and it's a hazard. Folks are sliding all over the place when it rains.
Yes.
And
maintenance requests, Beaufort County has a app where you can go take photos and submit any type of problems that you have with any Beaufort County infrastructure. It's called Beaufort County Connects. It's an application that you can download to both Android and Apple phones. So when you see drainage problems, road problems, things of that sort, whether or not you know if it's a Beaufort County asset or not, go ahead and send in that ticket. And then staff at our Public Works office will respond to you. And if, for instance, it's not a Beaufort County asset, it happens to be on SCDOT, then they'll tell you that, and then you can contact the SCDOT maintenance office.
And what was that app site?
It's called Beaufort County Connects. If you go to your app store, you'll see the Beaufort County logo. It's very user-friendly. You can submit as, I believe you can submit as just a guest, or you can create your own profile and they'll message you back. You'll get the status update of the submissions that you put in. It's a really good tool not a lot of people know about, and please tell your constituents.
Sure didn't.
Yeah, yeah.
Makes it real easy for
And if
you.
you happen to be on TikTok, we also have a
I
Public
don't go
Works
to
TikTok
TikTok.
account. You can watch our guys and girls out in the field.
Now, John knows about Hickory Dickory Dock. Not TikTok. Okay,
All right, thank you so much.
very much appreciate the update. Let me look at my list here to get my heads back in place. I'm going to go ahead and dial up, and I'll come back to the retreat workshop and talk about it. But I'd like to have Richard Turner. Richard, there he is. How about our state secondary less than 500 ADT update, my friend? See you, don't hear you. There you go. Can we turn him up a little bit? We're not hearing you, Richard. Again, see you, don't hear you. Thank you.
Sarah, what is it for speaker? Scarlet. That's what it's on, right? And then just make sure you're not muted. Oh, we're muted right here.
Thank you. Got it. Okay, perfect. Thank you for bearing with me. Sir?
There we go, we got you.
All right, very good. Well, Chairman Gordon and members of the committee, thank you for indulging me and allowing me to do this remotely. I apologize that I wasn't able to be there today in person, but I am happy to be here nonetheless and provide you guys an update on the pavement maintenance and preservation evaluation of the state secondary roads, really the low volume, less than 500 ADT roads that AEMT was happily to be part of. And so my name's Richard Turner. As we said, I am the South Carolina Program Services Lead for AEMT and the project manager on this project. And I'll dive in. I've got just a couple of slides just to kind of show you what we've done and the path forward. So we got notice to proceed on February the 7th. And then on February 23rd, we held a project kickoff meeting with Mr. Gordon as well as Andrea Atherton with the engineering staff. And to kind of walk through what we were going to do and really level set on what type of treatment types you would want to use for these types of roads, and also what type of characteristics do we need to survey throughout these roads. And what we landed on were the things such as homes, businesses, schools, churches, industries, really to show the importance of that road to the community. So we wanted that to be a factor in prioritizing these roads and and as part of really ranking them from 1 to 100 or whatever the number ends up being. That's a piece of it. The other piece of it, and really the larger piece, is what you see kind of the bottom left there, is the condition. 75% of what this will ultimately be a score for each of these roads is 75% of that will be based on the condition of the pavement itself, and then 25% will be based on those land use characteristics that we'll be surveying throughout the county. And what you see on the screen there is what our field technicians have with them on their iPads when they have one gentleman that's driving and one is collecting the data, and we're actually doing a pavement condition survey ourselves to give us a side-by-side comparison with the SCDOT data. And we're able to do that fairly quickly along with the land use characteristics. So it's going to give us a really comfort level of the recommendations that we'll provide to you all for each of those roads to bring those up to good standing. We started that work. So March 4th was we completed kind of the configuration of what you see there on the screen and what this would all look like to our technicians and what we'll ultimately be providing to you all. March 7th, we began collecting data in the field. So we're about 2 weeks into that. And at the time that I made this slide, we're about 50% complete. We're a little bit further than that, probably 60 to 65% at this point. So we've been making really good headway on that. We've had some good weather and a couple of days of not so good weather, but it hadn't slowed us down too terribly bad. What I have here on the screen is an active map. This is in real time. This is a screenshot from it, but in real time, this is what I see, what our technicians are doing as they move along through the county collecting the data. And you can see in there, and the color coding there is based on the condition of the road. Red being bad, dark green being the best condition. So I can see the progress they're making as they make their way through each of their streets and roads throughout the county. So you can see this time we're about 50% from a mileage standpoint at this point when I took this screenshot. And I can share that with you if any of you are interested in seeing the progress as we move along. It's a website that I can definitely send to you.
Richard, I would ask that you provide all 3 slides to Elizabeth so she can provide it to the committee and to the members that are here.
She has a copy of the slideshow, and I'll follow that up with the website so you all can take a look at that too.
Great.
So, thank you. Task ahead for us now, we expect to finish up the payment condition survey and land use characteristic survey by April 1st. We'll take about a week to really analyze that data, and then a couple more weeks we'll be developing all of our recommendations for treatment types for each of the roads, and then we'll continue on through a 5-year maintenance plan, developing that plan for you all that's fiscally constrained for the budget that we had talked about previously, and then we'll really then begin preparing our comprehensive report for each of the roads and in the 5-year plan as a whole, and then we'll be prepared by June 7th to provide an update and provide this final plan to you all for review. Along the way there, we expect to have some touch points with Andrea and Mr. Gordon as well, to make sure that what we're thinking, what you're thinking, make sure we're aligned with what your priorities are. We want to make sure that when we come to you at the end, that we're checking all the boxes for you. So there'll be some opportunities there that we'll seek some feedback from you all. But everything seems to be moving forward pretty well at this point.
I'll probably invite Elizabeth Penn Sanders into that meeting as well when we hold that. And are you going to have a few minutes to hang around, because my topic under item A of new business will have effect upon what we're doing, a great deal of what we're doing. So if you can hang in here for just a few minutes, I'd very much appreciate it.
I'll be happy to.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
this is Luana. I have a question.
okay.
Going back to the map where you had the color coding in the red, yellow, and green, what does the white areas indicate?
The white indicates the roads that that technicians have not collected data on yet. So the red, yellow, green are the ones that are completed thus far. So it's really showing the progress of our field surveys.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, Richard.
Yes, sir.
I am going to skip down to new business. I'll come back and pick up the retreat workshop in just a minute. In your packet, I included a hypothetical distribution of funds. And that hypothetical distribution of funds came from two Fridays ago. Eric Greenway and Joe Passman were in the State House chamber, and lo and behold, a conversation developed concerning $250 million that was going to be distributed to CTCs. And that $250 million that they're going to distribute to CTCs basically involves around the very programs that we're working on. We're the only CTC in the state that started at less than 500 ADT, and I give all you guys credit for that, and gals. But now they're saying, well, we want you to use this $250 million on roads that will never meet the criteria of the DOT Directive 64, 65, and 66, which establishes the pavement guidelines that Elizabeth uses and all the counties use in determining what roads they're going to pave. So, as it turns out, if you go down and look at what Beaufort is proposed to getting, it's roughly $5.8 million. I went to Joe Sturm, our program manager, and talked to him at length about it, and I said, Joe, everything I've read has no time constraints on this, or no constraints or any guidance given at this point in time. And I said, I sure as the devil would hate to have a slug of $5.8 million dropped on us, and us expected to be able to come up with, even though we've done an analysis of all the roads, to be able to spend that all in one slug. And number one, if you look at $250 million across 46 counties in the state of South Carolina, there's no way under the sun that there's enough paving contractors to be able to do that work. Of which he said, you know, I never thought about it, you're right. There's not enough paving contractors to do it. And I said, this ought to be spread out over a 2 or 3 year period. So, Richard, I'm bringing this up as what might happen is that 5-year plan, we might be coming back to you to have an adoption done to it where we take and use up that 5.8 million as well as our funds over maybe a 3-year period. So there might be a change order that we might have to develop for your contract. Does this make sense?
It does. And then, you know, you can provide me what level of funding you want for each of those years based on the feedback you get and what the state legislature decides on that one-time funding. And we can definitely pivot and create the 5-year plan with that in mind.
Now, my understanding is, in talking to Joe Sturm less than an hour ago or 2 hours ago, that he says that it has been through the State House and is on its way to the Senate for approval. That came out of the commissioners meeting this morning. That's what the commissioners reported to everybody. So Senate is a little bit more entailed than going through the House, but that is where the dollars are at, the $250 million is at this point in time. So again, I felt from the time I became chairman that my job is, as much as anything, is to keep you all informed of things that are going on behind the scenes that you don't get necessarily addressed directly. And this way you know what's coming up and what we might be dealing with in the future. Questions, comments?
Craig, this is Jim, and maybe it was in some of the details. I may have missed it. What's the origin of the $250 million that will be distributed?
Is
it from the infrastructure? Is it from the infrastructure package from the federal government?
No, it's from the state House collected a bunch. I think it's something to the tune of $1 billion excess in taxes this past year or two. And so they're sitting on a pot of gold. And so they're using it and divvying it up. I know one source of funding is prisons, something to the tune of $60 million to prisons. I know they're also putting funding into teachers. I know they're doing it into first responders / nurses, as well as the road program. So they're looking at as also giving us back a rebate in taxes. So whether all these, what comes into play, I don't know, Jim, but these are the documents that are in play, and it'll become, the funny thing of it is, when I saw the slide, the House and Senate were exactly the same, except for, I think, what they were giving to schools. The $250 million was the same in the House and the Senate. It was different on what they were providing school systems is where I think they were having issues. So my memory's pretty correct most of the time, and I think that's absolutely correct. But they have $1 billion windfall.
Okay. Thank you, Craig.
Any other questions? Stephanie, I'm going to let you step up and go next, and then I'll finish up my last two topics. And
all right, thank you. Let me see if I can share my screen.
do we hear you? Can you turn your volume up just a little bit?
Yeah, I'll go a little closer. Is my screen being shared? No. Can you see my screen now?
Yep. We're good.
Okay,
Yes.
great. All right, perfect. All right, I'll try and go really quick. So Craig asked me to talk a little bit about what the long-range transportation planning process is also going on. This is coming here doing both a rural long-range transportation plan for the 4-county area, which is Hampton, Colleton, Beaufort, and Jasper. And along at the same time, we're also doing the long-range transportation plan for the LATS, the Low Country Area Transportation Study, which is Beaufort, Hardyville, the portions of Jasper that include Hardyville, and then the Beaufort portion is all the urban areas, so Hilton Head, Bluffton, City of Beaufort. So what is a LRTP, or Long Range Transportation Plan? This is a 20-year horizon plan looking at federally funded transportation projects that are happening in the region. So basically, this plan is required in all metropolitan urbanized areas as designated by the census. If you're receiving federal funds, you have to be in this long-range transportation plan. It's updated every 5 years, and then it always has this 20-year horizon. So right now we're updating on our 5-year cycle of updating, and our horizon here is 2045. Just project timeline has been going on now for several months. And we're right now, this is probably a little difficult to see maybe on your screens, but Elizabeth has a copy she can send out. But we're nearing kind of the home stretch here, so this is important just to get you all aware of what's going on. But we're in the financial, I just received a financial analysis and funding strategy from our consultant team, and I'm expecting a draft document at the beginning of April that will go out for public comment for 30 days. So that'll be coming soon, and would love for all of you to be able to take a moment to look through the plan and provide your comments. And adoption is going to be May 13th. Just a little background on what the process has been up to this point. We did do a public involvement process, which involved having stakeholder interviews, talking to folks like Jared one-on-one, talking to other folks and technical folks at their different municipalities. We did an online survey. We've also had a website, and we did a public workshop as well back a few months ago. So part of the process the consultant team looked at, we don't just start from scratch, we look at everything that's already being done in the area. So we looked at all the other regional plans taking place, comprehensive plans done by the different municipalities, bicycle, pedestrian, and small area plans, and that is incorporated into this process. We've also done an existing conditions report in there. This is just these maps up here. I don't expect you to be able to read them, just some examples, but we looked at population, density, no vehicle households, traffic, current traffic, and future congestion in different locations, looking at crash locations, pavement quality, and bridge conditions. And all this is compiled and will be compiled in the final report. Part of the public input, I mentioned we did a survey. We had about 827 participants and collected about 12,000 plus data points and comments from folks around the region. So we're not doing this in a vacuum. We're definitely trying to reach out and get information from folks that live in the region. That we also did what we called a call for projects. This is where we reached out to all the municipalities and asked for them to provide what projects were, important on their CIPs and then their local plans to make sure that these were incorporated into the planning process and that we weren't missing something. So taking all that information, we then came up with a list of recommendations. And so we provided this list of recommendations and showed this to the LATS technical committee and the policy committee at our last meeting cycle in February, and generally was got buy-off on that. These recommendations were then, it's kind of skipping ahead of myself. Part of the recommendations also included incorporating other modes as well. And instead of recreating the wheel there, we were just incorporating the plans already done by the transit agency. And the Beaufort County Connects plan is also a great bicycle pedestrian plan, and Hardyville also has a recent bicycle plan. So those recommendations were taken straight from those documents. And we also had a list of studies that were recommended. Jared provided some of this input. Some of it was from other stakeholders, but looking at possibly doing some access management studies in the region, a freight plan, looking at some transit for north of the broader northern Beaufort County. And then taking all of that information, we then prioritized it. And I'll just go through this really quick, but part of the long-range transportation planning process in the state of South Carolina requires that we follow Act 114, which provides us with a pretty stringent process for prioritizing projects. So they provide the criteria, and then your consultants went back and calculated all the numbers into this process. The criteria included traffic volume and congestion, looking at the project was on a priority network, public safety, economic development, truck traffic, financial viability, pavement quality, and then environmental impacts. Those were all part of the prioritization process. And then we came out with the results on this final map here. And these prioritized results are how we then entered into the financial constrained part of the plan. So that's the piece that I'll be revealing, I guess, or we'll be talking more about in the next couple of weeks, as I'm just literally got an updated version of the spreadsheet today. So I want to get it into a more digestible format, and then that will all go out for public comment for 30 days through the month of April. And again, as I mentioned, we want to have adoption on May 13th. The financial scenario that I just mentioned, we're going to have two financial scenarios. One is what we are going to call sort of the official scenario, and that is plane has to be financially constrained, and we're looking at what are, based on our state and federal anticipated revenues that we'll have over the next 20 years. So we're projected $144 million. So that official scenario will be based on that dollar amount. We also did sort of what we're calling a sales tax scenario with sort of an optimistic approach that we're hoping that we will have both a Jasper County tax as well as a Beaufort County tax, which could add up to $500 million for 10 years, and then continuing that $500 million every 10 years to the 20-year portion of the plan, part of the plan. So that it also gives folks a different perspective of, you can see what you get for $144 million over 20 years, or you can see what you get for a lot, with having that tax, that 1 cent tax, how much more your dollar is going to go. So our next steps, as I said a few times and hinted at that public comment period, we really do want folks to take a look at this, and that'll be coming out within the next couple weeks. I'll make sure to have Greg help me out with that. I know we did that really fast. If anyone has any questions.
Okay, I'm going to fill in just a couple blanks that goes with what you said. First of all, as she has said in her previous meetings to us, if we do not have on what we're putting together the TIP, which goes to the STIP, which is a state transportation improvement plan, it will not get federal dollars when it goes to Federal Highway Administration. So the development of this list is extremely important for funding, trying to get federal funding for projects. That's number one. Number two, Stephanie and Jared made presentations to the 11-member select committee that is doing the work on the sales tax, the 1 cent sales tax, and they're projecting that for a 10-year period. And they did that with the idea that you have individuals that are coming from 11 different districts and really don't have a picture of what maybe the district's needs are. And this is in some ways help to supplement them. We meet, I sit on the technical committee with that Stephanie runs, and we're meeting 1 April for our next meeting, is that correct?
The MPO meeting, the last meeting is April 1st. The technical committee, we're still working on finalizing the date for that, but it'll be very close to that.
So, any questions from anybody?
The draft report is April 1st, and the final has to go to the feds by May 31st? Is that?
Did you hear that stuff?
Is that the dates?
Yeah, so I'm hoping we'll have adoption on May 13th. Our deadline to the federal highway is May 31st, so I would like a little cushion in there. But yeah, so we will. Our goal is to have the LATS policy committee vote on that on May 13th.
Understand that this does go before the LATS committee, and that's made up of the elected officials based upon recommendations from the technical committee.
So that's the public comment?
Yes.
Okay.
Stephanie, just for clarity, the slide, 2 slides ago that had the criteria that you listed, was that listed in priority or weighted order? So is it priority 1 through whatever the last one was, or was that just a random list?
No, it's not a random list and not in specific order. I can get the more detailed version. I was trying to do this really fast, but there's actually 3 categories that projects are grouped into, and the weighting varies slightly based on if it's like an intersection project, a widening project, or like a completely new road project. So I can get that detail to you. The version I sent Elizabeth is condensed.
Stephanie, if we could, I'd like to back that up to our next meeting, because that way you'll have it almost done with then, rather than putting out information that will maybe be confused, and I don't want to do that.
Okay.
Is that okay, Jim?
Yes, that's fine.
Any other questions? Great job, Stephanie. Okay, I'm gonna back up to the retreat and basically say, I really appreciated the great turnout that we had at the retreat. I thought the workshop went off very well. Any questions or comments about it?
Okay.
No, I thought it was very informative, particularly not having any background at all on how we interact with SCDOT and what some of the different functional groups and SCDOT do. Yeah, it was very informative and productive.
Great. I certainly will hold them anytime anybody desires, the committee desires. If you have other topics you'd like to have brought up, I'm certainly open to it. So, but I do appreciate everybody's attendance. I'm going to tie item C and the treasurer's report together at this point in time, if there's no objections. We've all heard the rumors, it's been on the news, and the concern is that because of the taxes on gasoline and the effects it's having on not only residents of South Carolina, but Georgia as well, they're talking about it. They've talked at length about eliminating the gasoline tax. And lo and behold, DOT has taken a very, very strong position on it. At least that's what I've been told. And the commission has taken the same strong position on it. That it is ill-advised to do away with the gasoline tax. The legislature had talked about continuing to fund DOT, back fund them out of general funds rather than gasoline tax. DOT has made the position that with contracts in place and projects that they have going on, interrupting that funding stream would be devastating and could possibly cause first of all, DOT to go bankrupt. And the commission this morning took, again, a very strong position against the getting rid of the gasoline tax. As you all know, that's how we're funded. So do away with the gasoline tax and we don't get any dollars. Which is my segue into our financial report. I asked Brittany to go back and without, if you will see, she stopped in January of us assimilating any additional funds and only subtracting out miscellaneous items that were being taken care of. But what it shows is that by end of fiscal year, we will have over $5 million. Our contract commitment is $4,200,000. That means we're roughly, round numbers, $800,000 ahead. But also remember, not only are we $800,000 ahead, the committee wisely sat back and put a reserve in place of $500,000. So if you add the 800 and the 500,000, we're at 1.3 million. So I'm sharing that with you with the idea that if something goes in the right term as hell in a handbasket, we're still going to be okay. We've financially managed our funds appropriately. We've done a good job of looking after the funds that we're given. So, any questions or comments?
Craig, the only comment is that the projections that you just noted does include the funding that we approved in our January meeting of year 5 resurfacing and the $50,000 for Garth Road and rejuvenation for year 5. So that good news includes things that we did approve in January.
Correct. And again, it shows good fiscal responsibility for the committee.
And it doesn't include the 5.7 and the 250 million either.
It doesn't.
Right.
It does not include it. But those funds generally comes with strings attached. So whether we get to use them for on our roads is probably not.
Okay.
Other questions? Okay. Again, I see nobody here for public comment. Chairman's comments, and my chairman's comments are I very much want to apologize for moving the meeting back a day. It was a forced error that occurred administratively. Certainly was, I certainly was a wild man yesterday when this was all going down, to say the least. Again, if there's no additional comments or things to be brought before the committee, I don't see heads. Our next meeting is May 18th, 4 p.m. in these chambers. Meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.
Let's go down to here. Okay. Somebody made what? Especially what? This is March, April, May. He gets upset. I'll tell him.